Nestled amongst the towering glass canyons of lower Manhattan, Patrick Bateman walks intentionally toward his individualized obscurity. He is not a person. He is a reflection of the cruelty of capitalism. Under Oliver Peoples' glasses and Ferragamo shoes, he exists not as an individual, but as a meticulously crafted facade. A copy of a copy, endlessly replicated in the image of a society that worships at the altar of consumerism. You came here for 8 reasons why you're Patrick Bateman. The title was a lie. But by the time you finish this essay, you'll realize there are many more. Like you, Bateman's identity is a collage of designer labels, upscale restaurants, and exclusive clubs, exhausting routines. Bateman doesn't live life. He curates it, assembling experiences and possessions in a relentless pursuit to outdo not just others, but also to replicate a false construct of himself. Yet beneath this polished veneer lies an unsettling emptiness, a void where authenticity should reside. We can look inward into Bateman later. Let's look outward first at surveillance capitalism. French philosopher Michel Foucault developed the panopticon, the invisible walls of a prison with complete power over human behavior. Capitalism has become Patrick Bateman's prison. A ladder you cannot step off. A treadmill that does not stop. A monopoly that never ends. This prison exists under the watchful eye of its jailers, you, nudging each other toward brand identity, absurd fashion choices, and forced servitude to keep your possessions alive. In this new economy, individuals are no longer subject to traditional forms of domination, but instead are governed through their freedom. You flood to Facebook, making mass data sharing a social requirement. And it's too late. Surveillance is permanent in its effects, even if it is discontinuous in its action. And so, as we follow Bateman, the billboard of capitalism, we hear his agony in his daily routine. I shower using a water-activated gel cleanser, then a honey almond body scrub, and on the face, an exfoliating gel scrub. I apply a herb mint facial mask, which I leave on for 10 minutes, while I prepare the rest of my routine. Much like a churchgoer who has merged their identity, he does this precisely so that he can tell you he has done this. He does this to satisfy his jailers. This obsessive attention to detail isn't about hygiene or self-care. Each product, each brand, is a brushstroke in the portrait of a man who has conflated consumption with existence. He does not exist in his world if he does not consume in precisely the correct manner. Bateman has become a walking screen, projecting the images of his captors as they rotate into his existence. He keeps them alive with his consumerism so that they may continue to propagate their messages. They keep him alive with their consumerism so that they may continue to propagate their messages. The Darwinian urges of capitalism are to copy, 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 and when that is not profitable, make a new copy. And yet, Bateman defends himself with his illusion of choice. Marcus and I go to the same barber, although I have a slightly better haircut. His comical but yet complex knowledge of Huey Lewis and the news shows us how seriously he takes the cultural facade. As the Bateman copies gather around the table and compare business cards, we see the most telling illustration of Bateman's imprisonment. There is no winning in this game that accompanies homogeneity, is never sufficient. In this moment, the business card transcends its practical purpose and becomes an artifact of power, a symbol laden with unspoken hierarchies. The men in the room aren't exchanging contact information. They're engaging in a silent duel where the finest details, a watermark, the thickness of the paper, can signify triumph or defeat. The subtle deviation from the pre-established rule or order nets the most profit or ridicule. Names, too, lose their anchoring to identity. Colleagues mistake Bateman for others with alarming regularity, and he does the same. In a rare moment where the facade cracks, Bateman attempts to confess his heinous actions to his lawyer, Harold Carnes. The confession is a desperate plea for recognition, not of his crimes, but of his existence. But even this raw admission is swallowed by the abyss of homogeneity. No one would believe such a deviation. Jesus Davis, Carnes laughs, mistaking him for someone else. That was hilarious. That was really good. Bateman's attempt at authenticity is invalidated. His voice lost amid the echoes of a world that hears only what it wants to hear. His confession becomes another shadow, intangible, ungraspable, and ultimately meaningless. Bateman's descent into violence is not a break from his hyper-real existence, but an extension of it. The brutality he inflicts is devoid of genuine emotion. It's another performance, an extreme attempt to feel something, anything, that might affirm his humanity. Whether Bateman can ever truly escape his hyperreal cave is uncertain. Whether we can, equally so. His identity is so enmeshed with the shadows that stepping into the light might feel like an annihilation of self. This was an excerpt from the Amazon bestseller, Truth and Persuasion in the Digital Revolution. For more, click the link in the description to purchase. Nestled amongst the towering glass canyons of Lower Manhattan, Patrick Bateman walks intentionally toward his individualized